going on, man? Back for another one of these?
Yes,
Exciting
we are.
Stuff.
Yep.
Fortunately, this week I made zero effort to research and plan an episode for us to do, but we didn't want to miss a week, so we're just going to do some reaction videos, talk a little bit about, I guess, part of the Super Bowl and a little bit about the World Cup and FIFA and kind of how they mess with local economics.
I'm pretty sure at this point we can wing it just fine.
You think so?
Yeah.
All right, I believe in us too.
Probably our listeners would like to see us just wing it once in a while and just talk shit.
You know, we try to make a nice little outline and talk about some kind of relevant business lesson, but I guess we're just going to fuck around this time.
Yeah. I bet we'll get feedback from like all three of them, or at least two of the three.
Yeah. Maybe they'll like this better.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'm Scott Hess, tax and business consultant.
I'm John Barton, small business owner. Remember the tortoise and the hare? Slow and steady wins the race.
We started Turtlesmith to help people start small businesses, providing information and resources to small business owners and entrepreneurs.
Build a solid foundation and forge your dreams.
This is always annoying to ask, but if you're liking this content, please like and subscribe. It's the best way for us to get more followers and more people engaged in this great business content. You can also follow us on all socials at TurtlesmithOK and find us at turtlesmith.com.
Well, let's jump into a video. Calvin's got us a handful of videos here that have, I guess, some business value and maybe a little entertainment value, and we'll comment on them.
I don't know how entertaining they are, but
Okay, right on. Well, let's do the first one. Why hosting the Super Bowl isn't worth it?
The Super Bowl is America's biggest annual sporting event. Each year, over 100 million TV viewers tune in for the big game, making the Super Bowl 9 of the 10 most watched American TV programs of all time. And hosting it has become as American as watching it. Many Super Bowl host committees believe that popularity can mean just one thing: big profit for the city. Committees and the NFL claim that the game can spur $300 to $500 million of spending in a host city.
Of course.
For example, in 2018, Minnesota's host committee reported that Super Bowl 52 brought in $450 million to its half of the Twin Cities. But sports economists, including Victor Matheson, are skeptical.
If someone claims, look, this event is $300, $400, $500 million, what an economist would say is prove it.
In fact, when Matheson crunched the numbers, he found that the Super Bowl brings in between $30 and $130 million, a fraction of what the host committees and the NFL claim. Here's why hosting the Super Bowl isn't as valuable as people think. So what does it cost to host a Super Bowl? Matheson contends that for some cities, the cost starts with building a new stadium. 7 NFL stadiums were constructed from 2006 to 2017, and by 2019, each will have hosted a Super Bowl. And on average, taxpayers contribute $250 million for stadium construction.
They say, look, you build the stadium and we'll bring you a Super Bowl. If the Super Bowl actually brings $400 or $500 million to the city, then all of a sudden handing over $500 million in taxpayer subsidy looks like a pretty good deal. Unfortunately, if the actual impact is a fraction of that, then all of a sudden taxpayers are on the hook for a huge stadium and they're not getting much in the way of help, at least from the Super Bowl, to pay that stadium off.
In addition to the stadium, which the NFL uses at no charge, there's also the cost of hosting the event, like public transportation and police overtime. For example, in 2014, New Jersey gave the NFL an $8 million tax break, and NJ Transit ended up with $5.6 million of losses transporting fans to and from the Super Bowl. But on top of that, the NFL requires additional expenses. Minneapolis' Star Tribune published the NFL's 153-page bid book that it obtained in 2014. The document lists millions of dollars worth of the NFL's specifications and requirements for host cities. The list includes parking spaces, hotel rooms, transportation, billboards, security, food, access to golf courses and bowling alleys, along with an exemption on paying city, state, and local tax.
That obviously means that a lot less money is sticking in the city. That's all going back to NFL's headquarters. And at that point, the money does get shared. But again, it doesn't get shared with local governments. It gets shared with other 32 team owners.
These are high demands, and committees comply under the assumption that they'll make the money back. But just how much of a profit are cities actually making? Well, it all depends on how you do the calculations. Matheson found 3 differences for the disparity. The first is substitution effect, which is when consumers spend money on a sporting event that they would have spent anyway. So it doesn't increase the amount of money being spent, it rearranges the spending pattern. The second is crowding out effect, which is when crowds associated with a sporting event displace regular spending. So if the Super Bowl fills every hotel that would normally be 80% occupied, the NFL is only accounting for the 20% increase. And the final reason is leakage, which accounts for where the money ultimately ends up. Hotels usually increase prices by 3 or 4 times during the Super Bowl, but corporations and shareholders reap the benefits of the price increases,
Of
not
course.
the local workers.
So what you're trying to do is you're trying to pay for tens of millions of dollars of expenditures on really not much in the way of additional economic activity. So you can definitely not come out ahead, at least as a state or local government.
In 2008, Glendale, Arizona hosted Super Bowl 42, and the city's mayor told ESPN that the city lost $1 million in the process. In 2006,
Only $1 million?
San Francisco hosted a
Well, that's all he
weekend
admitted.
leading up to Super
Yeah.
Bowl 50, which was being held in Santa Clara. And San Fran ended up with the $4.8 million public services bill.
We do
Good
have
Lord.
some evidence that big events like the Super Bowl or the Olympics at least temporarily cause a surge in happiness. But we need to be careful about that. So if you want to say, hey, bring in the Super Bowl because it makes people happy, that's great. Just don't tell us it makes us rich.
Well,
What could it mean for?
I mean, okay, first of all, I think we should just reassess our goals here. We need to we need to try to become so big that we can demand everything for free and never pay any taxes.
Right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's really the business like pinnacle, I think, is where the NFL is. Like they can demand things from a city, and cities are chomping at the bit for it. And I don't understand. I don't understand A, why any of this is needed, and B, why a city thinks that's a good idea. I mean, it seems to me that every city loses money on the Super Bowl. Every city loses money when they do like the Olympics. Countries lose money. It's not a good business decision in any capacity.
You know what I found really interesting about that? I stopped where they were going through the NFL or their little rule book, and I stopped on the spot where they were talking about hotels. And it says in their rule book, in order to be a host city, you have to have at least 35% more hotel rooms available than there are seats in the stadium. And so if there's, 20,000 seats, in the stadium, then you need to have somewhere around,
30,000
hotel rooms available, and a certain percentage of them have to be full service versus another. And so the reason that was interesting to me is because I know Oklahoma City has goals to host an NBA All-Star game here, and they have similar requirements. So when we start looking at these new hotels and this whole tower thing that they're talking about building down here, and why they build all these hotel rooms, these hotels in seemingly weird places, is because you've got a radius from the stadium for those hotel rooms to be available in. And so
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that was my question to you. I was going to ask is, does the NBA do this? Because
Yes.
NBA and the major leagues, the World Series and the NBA Finals, they're held in whatever city the teams are in, right? They go back and forth. But the Super Bowl, they go to a separate stadium.
Yeah, they go to a predetermined stadium. So
Why? Why not just have it where whatever team's winning or whatever team's playing? Like they flip a coin.
I think
they
it's
make
more
money.
so to control weather because it's in the wintertime.
Oh, well, that makes
and
sense.
You don't want to bring a bunch of people to Wisconsin in the middle of the winter.
But they've had
I
Super
do.
Bowls in those times, right?
So recently they did have a Super Bowl in New York, and I think that was the first time for a Super Bowl there. And then they also had one in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, where they'd had a dome stadium, but people still had to deal with the elements.
See, I think
thought
I think the weather is what really separates the men from the boys in the NFL. When the Lions are playing and it's snowing out, That really makes a difference in the game.
Buffalo actually, the Buffalo Bills actually just built a new stadium, or they're opening a new stadium this year, and they decided to leave it open air because they
Yeah.
embrace, having
want the
that much
cold.
snow. They want the cold. They
So-
want the snowfall.
So I have a question. So if the NFL and all these these leagues require this hotel space, what happens after the game is gone and the city doesn't really need that hotel space? So all these new capacity showed up. So does that contribute to like urban blight at some point in the future because these hotels are underused?
Oftentimes it does.
I think so, and I think you just have to figure out a way to keep up with demand. So they'll build the new hotels, and then we've got the new convention centers downtown. So they just keep bringing in events that have huge surges to the population.
So I thought about this, years ago. I kind of had this thought that a city is never actually finished because it's in a constant state of renewal.
Right.
Right. So you build up one area of the city and it's nice and new and shiny, right? And then another area is kind of run down. So then somebody at some point says, well, we need to have economic development over there.
It's just
And
an
then by the
ongoing
time,
wheel.
and then roads get better. And then by the time they finish, kind of each area of the city, then the first part that they developed, 20 years ago is now in need of
Yeah.
now it's the poor part again.
Yeah, it's like road construction. It's
Yeah.
never done.
It's never, well,
just,
and
the highways, they just keep doing a mile at a time, and then when they're done, they go back to where they started.
right. In a sense, it can't ever be done.
Right.
Like there's no way that a city can ever be done because it's just constantly in this ebb and flow of growing. And then you have things like a Super Bowl and things like that where these big organizations come in and they demand, well, you're going to have to build this, you're going to have this infrastructure in place and so on. And that then spurs a bunch of investment and a bunch of construction and everything and makes life miserable for the residents for a while.
See, I mean, the smart thing has got to be just to have all of these large events held in the same spot. Like you just pick Vegas and so every Super Bowl, every NBA All-Star, every huge convention, they're all in Vegas. Vegas has the hotel rooms and the capacity to support all of that. But then I think you get into this bummer of then the average guy in Pennsylvania can't make it to the Super Bowl. Whereas if they held it nearby, he might be able to make it that year.
And that's another thing, right? So let's look at that. So I guess the NFL now pays taxes, but for the longest time they didn't pay taxes, right? They were under some kind of special deal.
Right.
And
I didn't know that. Were they like a nonprofit or something?
yeah,
in
they
the
were some
NFL?
kind of nonprofit
Yeah, they were
or
listed
something
as
like
a
that.
nonprofit.
Get out of here. That's
And
ridiculous.
but the average guy can't go to the Super Bowl now.
Yeah, that's true. It's too
I
expensive.
mean, it's ridiculous. Why if the public is paying for all of these things, all these stadiums and all this stuff to attract all these sports teams, why can't the public put a cap on tickets?
Do they do some kind of limit, like a lottery or draw or something like
I
that?
believe
for
they do
people
lotteries,
in each city, and you can get like a regular price ticket. They set aside some
I think there are some things like that happen
because they're doing that for the LA Olympics. Because we're hosting part of that here in Oklahoma City, and so they have a drawing for Oklahoma City residents that you can enter into a lottery to get. I think Tiffany was looking at the other day. You can buy like 12 tickets or something like that. So at least people from here can get a shot at getting tickets.
I know oftentimes in cities, depending on how popular the team is, because if your team's really well and really popular, it's just basic supply and demand. Most games are going to sell out and they're not going to have too much left over for anybody else. However, if you're in like a mid-market team that may be playing a team that, not too many people are excited to see, there's oftentimes you can walk up to the stadium just after tip-off and get a severe price reduction on any tickets that they have available.
Yeah.
And so if it's, I remember one time when I was living in Oregon, the Thunder were there, and the Thunder weren't that good at the time. It's when we were kind of going through those down years. And we walked up to the stadium. We had tickets to the Skybox, but then when we were walking in, got one of the guys at the ticket counter was like, "Hey, dude, I can get y'all down like really close for $45 tonight."
Oh yeah.
And we were sitting down like literally just behind the front, not on the front row, but just behind the front row for $45 a piece.
That's
That's
crazy.
that's kind of like Jesse's in theater and so we have started buying like season tickets to the
Civic
to
Center.
the Civic Center down here, and seeing some of their productions.
Yeah.
And
Some of them aren't bad. I saw the Book of Mormon down there. It's hilarious. The guys from South Park made that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I need to go see that. I haven't seen that yet. I missed it when it came through.
Mhm.
But basically, even those productions, right? We found out, kind of through this association that if you like Calvin was saying, if you go up there like right near call time, that's when they're willing to sell their unused seats pretty cheaply because they
Right
want to
on.
fill the theater,
Right.
So getting a little bit's better than getting nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's I mean, as far as the business of this goes,
I mean, as far as the business of this goes, I think we want to be the NFL. That's really the move.
well, yeah, I mean, of course, we want to be the NFL. I just like, and you think about it, this happens every single year because there's going to be a Super Bowl every year. So they've probably, I don't know how far out they plan for this, right?
Oh, I think they're planned out for the next decade, probably. If
Yeah.
it goes. And it sounds like they plan way ahead. Like you have to put this bid in.
Well,
Probably
they'd have to
a
because
decade ahead.
you
right?
couldn't start this like a year ago and
No,
get
no,
all
no.
this stuff done.
Yeah. We were in Vegas, right? But while they were leading up, like it was like 8 months before the F1 race was going there. And everybody was already complaining about it. The taxi drivers, the people who lived there, they were like, this is all bullcrap. They've shut down parts of the city to build the track and stuff. And it was causing a lot of chaos for this thing like 8 months in advance.
Oh yeah, that's what happens.
It's crazy.
That's exactly what happens. In China, for example, when they had the Olympics in Beijing.
Yeah, which probably, I heard, lost them a fortune. Like
Well-
they lost a lot of money.
Well, one thing they did in China was they literally closed all of the factories within like
yeah.
30 miles of the stadium to
reduce
clear the
pollution.
air.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about that and how much economic activity that put a damper on.
I'm sure they didn't pay those workers either in the
No, probably not.
factories
I mean,
and
who
all that
knows?
crap.
I mean, but
Well, then you look at like Atlanta, I read a deal about that because didn't Atlanta hosted the Olympics in like 2006 or something? Or no, maybe it was in the 90s.
96, I think.
Right. And then 5 years later, it's just dilapidated ruins of a stadium that was used one time or for one event. And it almost bankrupted the city.
we saw a little bit of that when we went to Paris this
Yeah.
last year. We went.
Yeah, same thing.
We were driving by the old Olympic Stadium in Paris and everything, and
Right.
the taxi driver was telling us about that. You
Yeah.
know, how it's like run down and people barely use it.
And see, I think LA is doing it a little bit right because LA is giving us here in Oklahoma City a part of the Olympics because we're set up to do a couple events and we don't have to put a lot of money into it. That's really what they should do.
Now, can you imagine being an Olympian and you've made it to the Olympics in your sport, in this case rowing,
Yeah.
right? And you don't get to participate in the actual big Olympics at the big stadium and everything,
I
and
don't think
in the
I'd be bummed
ceremony?
at all. I mean, you're just.
Or do they have it where the athletes can do that and then they just have to travel here and do their events?
I'm sure that's the thing. Also, I think we're having like a opening ceremony here
Oh.
in Oklahoma City as well. I think that's a much better solution. Like if we're going to host the Olympics in the United States, we should just have all these events held in different areas. More people get to participate, more people get to see, in their local area, and it spreads out the economic damage a little bit so that not everybody's suffering.
Yeah, well, I guess so. Or the economic benefit if there is any.
Right. Yeah.
I was going to say, I know we're going to
No,
watch
no,
one
you're
more of
good.
these things, but I was going to say when I was watching that last clip
Yeah.
that it sounds a lot like what we talk about a lot of times, how people like to count revenue without counting
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
left over. Like, what do you keep? When I hear these people say, oh, it brings $500 million in, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but what's really left over? Like, how much did you spend to get that 500 million?
Yeah, exactly.
If 500 million is actually a correct amount.
Well, and he's talking about the real thing. Like, yeah, the hotel I thought was a great example. Like a hotel usually 70% full. When the Super Bowl's on, it's 100% full, but it really only accounts for that little bit. It's kind of like that survivor bias. You ever see that picture of they were talking about planes in World War II and they were measuring the bullet holes of planes that made it back. And they're like, we need to put extra armor where the bullet holes are on the planes that made it back. And somebody was like, no, that's not right. You want to put extra armor where there are no bullet holes because those are the planes that didn't make it back.
Right.
And so it's a little survivorship bias. And I think when these economist guys start talking about it and they explain it using those little methods, it makes it a lot more clear.
Economists really love to put a damper. Economists and accountants really love to put in a damper on shit. Don't
Yeah, they really do. They really
You're a
do.
dream killers.
That's my life mission, is to destroy the economic goals of people and bring them to reality so that we can actually know how much we're making.
Actually, in reality, though, at least you are a dream enabler.
Yeah, well, we try to be, but it drives me crazy. Like you just said, when clients will come in, they're like, my business is worth $10 million. That's how much business I did. And then I go through the books and I'm like, you made 10 million in revenue and then you took home 80 grand. So your business is worth about 200. And they're like, how can that be possible? I'm like, well, it doesn't make that much money. So anyway, let's check out this next one.
If a World Cup team moved into your city, not just for a couple of days, but for weeks. I had to put my Kansas City jersey on for this one. It was just announced that Argentina has chosen Kansas City as its home base for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. That means that the team will be living, training, and spending time there throughout the tournament, not just showing up for one match. And here's why that matters for small business owners. It's not just more foot traffic. It's new languages, new cultures, different expectations entering the
I agree with all of those.
The opportunity, it isn't in last-minute promotions. It's about getting started right now and positioning early. That can mean bilingual signs or menus, training staff to work with international visitors, creating World Cup-specific experiences, deals, partnerships. Offers like this that you get started on now, it doesn't feel rushed. It feels intentional. The businesses that win won't be the loudest right when the World Cup arrives. They'll be the ones that set themselves ahead of the ball game before it even started. And that's strategy simplified.
Yeah, that's pretty clever. I didn't know the FIFA World Cup was coming. So just one team is going to be in Kansas City, and then the rest are pick other cities, or
No, there's about 16 cities throughout North America where they're going to be. So places like Kansas
Oklahoma City get one?
Oklahoma City's not one.
Man, what a bummer.
I know we didn't get two back to back, but there are quite a few places across like the Pacific Northwest. I believe Miami is a place, and then some places in Canada and Mexico as well. I believe.
So these are literally like they play one match in the city?
No, they're
For
going
this
to play.
tournament?
They're going to play different groups, and so there'll be a group of matches, and then the winners of those will either move on to other cities, or the winners of other cities will move on to those cities.
Yeah, but there'll also be like fans and the whole team and staff and everybody from
Correct.
those.
I think
those deals
I
will
do
be there
think
for
it's
a long
smart.
time.
Yeah, I think it's smart for small businesses to look at that and decide like what part they want to play in that.
Yeah.
I think that's all good advice.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, I just while he was saying that, I was sitting there thinking to myself, I should like make my menus in Spanish as well, and maybe have a Chinese menu.
It's not a bad idea.
Because we do get people that come in who are Spanish speakers,
Yeah.
and
Chinese speakers.
and Chinese speakers. We've had several, and I don't know what their command of English is. It might be as good or better than mine, but why not offer them one in their language?
It's not a bad idea. Now, when you go to the Chinese restaurant with Lulu, do you guys get the Chinese menu?
Yeah, we get the Chinese menu.
I always have to ask it for them. I mean, it still says in English stuff, but like
Right.
the good stuff's on the Chinese menu.
That is absolutely true, especially nowadays. See, so nowadays, people in America are kind of lucky because with so many Chinese people here and people wanting authentic Chinese,
Mhm.
because the Chinese stuff that we grew up with, right?
It's
kinda
not really Chinese.
was not it, and it's not
Yeah, it's
Chinese.
just
Like
American
a lot of that stuff you will not find that anywhere in China.
Yeah, you're not getting
You're not getting General
Tso's
So's chicken and shit. They
orange
just made
chicken and
that up.
stuff. Yeah,
You don't get a fortune cookie in China.
yeah. That's like the
You know?
we went to eat sushi with like a Japanese guy, and we were like ordered a bunch of rolls, and he goes, "This is not sushi."
No.
I was like, "Oh, I had no idea."
No, most of the sushi in America is produced by Chinese people and Latinos.
Yeah, there you go. There is a Latino or a Hispanic sushi place here. They're called like, I don't know, Sonita rolls or something like that.
Yeah.
But they
That's
do,
down
like,
there on
deep fried-
23rd
yeah,
Street,
It's
right?
not
Yeah.
bad. It's
Yeah.
not bad.
Yeah. We stopped in there one day for lunch and we were kind of amused by that.
Yeah, it's good.
It's pretty interesting.
Little Mexican
Right.
Japanese fusion.
Yeah.
It looks like there's about 11 host cities in the United States for the World Cup. and we're sandwiched in between three of them. There's Kansas City, Dallas, and Houston.
Okay.
Interesting.
That'll be cool. And well, what he was talking about is really a lot of what we preach, and that's about being proactive rather than reactive. A lot of business owners are going to hear this and they're going to say, great, a week before I'll start running some promotions and maybe I'll even do something in a different language and we'll try to get some stuff together. But working now and embedding yourself into that community and culture and training your staff and coming up with a new menu offerings and stuff like that is being proactive instead of just like waiting for it to come to you.
Yeah, you embrace the fans, embrace the Argentine fans, or the other teams are going to have fans come in and stuff like that. And if you can show yourself as multicultural and
people will be excited,
and come up with some authentic dishes or whatever or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Do you?
I
mean, if people are traveling from Argentina, they probably don't want to try Argentinian food. They want to try Kansas City barbecue.
Probably,
Yeah.
but you just, maybe. I don't know.
Have a
Maybe
little-
maybe they like Kansas City barbecue, but maybe they would prefer to have the type of beer that they like in
There you go.
Argentina or something.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I mean, I don't know, but I like the idea of thinking ahead,
Mhm.
And that's actually one of the things about business, especially kind of a hospitality business that's in a way so difficult because a lot of times you're just reactive on a day-to-day basis and you hardly have time to plan,
Right.
to like literally plan out a quarter ahead or a year ahead or even a month ahead. You're just trying to get through each day.
Yeah, we start. It just comes with planning. You got to take some time. You've got to make sure you have a little bit of time in your day to think ahead, to sit down, to go through your books, to make sure your finances are good, and to get ahead of the curve.
Like I was thinking about that for the pool room, right? And I was thinking, I've never really sat down and planned out and like thought out like what would be the most money that I could make out of this pool room,
Right.
From a physical standpoint, like
Right,
how
right.
many people, like if just on a pie in the sky kind of thing, like how many people could fit into this building? How many people would it take to service them? And so on, and then going down from there down to what's more realistic, right?
Right.
And saying, okay, so what's more realistic and what's fantasy, right? I have the capacity, right? The space, but I don't have the people and everything to do that. But what would it take to get somewhere between what is normal and what could be,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you think about it like that, then you might find, oh, you know what? If I start doing some of these other things or planning ahead, or find a way or find somebody to help me either part-time or even full-time, that's kind of an investment that you have to take a little bit of a risk on,
Yeah.
but it could pay off in a big way because now you can go into some of that unused capacity
Yeah.
or that
Smart.
potential. And a similar deal happens here, I think.
I think so too. Let's check this next one out. Something about Wichita. Are they having some kind of?
Wichita's tiny.
Wichita's 500,000 people. That's where I'm from.
Is it really? It's bigger than Oklahoma City?
No,
Oklahoma City is like 400,000 people.
it's not bigger than Oklahoma City Metro,
Right.
which is 1 million. We were just talking about that.
Give me a lot of QR codes.
Yeah, QR with multiple language stuff. Yeah. Well, that's kind of interesting. I didn't even think about that. Kansas City to Dallas is only about a 5-hour drive in between them. So I bet a lot of people would choose to drive rather than fly.
Yeah.
Is that right? Only 5 hours from Kansas City?
Yeah, maybe 5.5 or 6, but it's not too much more.
Huh. I've not thought about that because we're like 4 hours to Dallas from Oklahoma City, right?
No, it's only 2.5.
2.5 hours. Oh, dude, why am I so lost, man, right now?
Yeah, and then it's about 3. So it's about,
That makes sense.
well, actually, maybe it's about 6 hours.
I was going to say it should be a little bit more. It's about 3 hours.
I was like, you have to take into account both of you drive well lead foot.
I mean, I do drive pretty fast. Let's see.
But I mean, all of that stuff is good. I just wonder sometimes, how much government really does outreach to businesses. I hear them say things like small business development center says they're trying to get small businesses in on the action and so on. But I have a small business. I've had it for 3 years here, Chester's, and I cannot remember one time when anybody from the Small Business Development Center has ever contacted me except to tell me that they're not going to let my license go until I do this, or this, and spend another $10,000.
Yeah. Well, it turns out it's about 8 hours to Dallas, and you don't even go through Wichita. You just go south,
Right.
down through Tulsa. But maybe some people will go the scenic route over through Wichita. Who knows? But
Yeah.
that's what an average person takes. I can make it in 5.5. No,
But you don't play
stress.
pool, so you probably never went to old school billiards in Wichita, did you?
Well, no, and I also left when I was 18, so I never really went to the bar scene or any cool places. We used to hang out at this place called the Elks Lodge, where they'd have like music shows and stuff until this bitch of a reporter ruined it for everyone. She came down, we were all outside hanging out, people are smoking joints and stuff, and it's a fun place for teenagers to hang out. And she wrote this article, and like the first line was like, cuss words fly as fast as cigarette buds. And all of our parents read it, and we could never fricking go back.
Oh my God, man. Yeah.
it was the word. Some nosy reporter ruined our hangout. It's fucking bullshit.
Something similar happened to Johnston City, Illinois.
Yeah.
Right. They used to have a tournament there called a Hustlers Jamboree.
Uh-huh.
And it was at a place called Jansko's Sports Club or something like that, right? And so once a year, they would have this gathering of all the best pool players would come in, and they'd have like a 10-day tournament, right?
Right.
With over three different events, or 2 or 3 events, and it was actually not that big of a place, right? So they'd play these matches, and then at night after the matches were over, they'd all get together and gamble.
Yeah.
And ESPN sent a writer to profile the event, right? And so he profiles the event and he writes, and it was a really great article. And you can go to, I think you can still find it like on ESPN.com or something.
Yeah, but let me guess, he wrote a bunch of crap about the gambling.
No,
and
it wasn't. It wasn't
hustling.
ESPN. It was Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, they wrote a bunch of stuff about the.
They wrote about it,
gambling
yeah, in a
and
very
hustling.
romanticized way,
Right,
and
it was
everything,
great.
and gritty and cool and great. And then, like a year later, right, the FBI comes in and busts the place,
God.
right? And
Why did you call me a good time ruiner? Look at these people.
Now here's
Writers
the story
are
though.
the real
Now check
villains.
this out though. Check this out for those of you, So a lot of people may know the name Minnesota Fats. You ever heard that name?
I have heard it, but I have no idea who it is or what it is.
Okay, so
Maybe I've not even heard that. Maybe it was
there
like,
was a book in the '60s, and there was a movie called The Hustler.
Oh, I've seen that. Okay, that's probably
Okay,
where I heard it. Yeah.
So the best player in The Hustler, or the guy to beat, right? The guy that was known as the best player in the country, his name was Minnesota Fats.
Mhm.
Okay, and after the movie came out, right, it sparked a pool boom, and there was a guy named New York Fats, right? His name was Rudolph Wanderone, his name, and he was actually a decent player, and a friend of his told him, hey, you ought to change your name to Minnesota Fats and capitalize on the movie. So that's what he did.
Yeah.
So he actually became a pretty famous player, but his character, his real life character, was nothing like the movie character.
Yeah.
So that was a point of contention. But this guy was a real life showman, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was a talker, a hustler, you know. And anyway, so they busted this hustlers tournament, right? And they drag him into court, and they got Minnesota Fats up in front of the judge. And the story goes that they got him up on the stand to ask him about this or that, right? And he just goes off, and he's like, you guys arrested these guys for gambling? He goes, these guys wouldn't bet a quarter that water's wet. And he said Minnesota Fats had the whole courtroom in stitches, and the judge was laughing, and they basically just let everybody off.
Right on. Right on. Well, we got to wrap up, but I do have one quick question in the board. Every time I see those, like a movie or something, the guys are playing pool, and then all of a sudden there's somebody a little better, and then the big move, the hustle, is like, well, really, I'm left-handed, and they switch over and shoot with the other hand.
That has happened.
Has it really ever happened?
Yeah, that happened. That used to actually be a move, right?
Really?
Because you'd go into a tournament
Yeah.
or something, or go into a pool room and you'd play right-handed. And now some people are ambidextrous, you know,
Right,
and,
right.
and they can play pretty good both ways. But a lot of people aren't. And so when they try to play with their opposite hand, they really do look like they can't play. They are about 3 or 4 levels under what they would normally be able to play.
So that was a real move hustlers used?
Yeah, that's a real
That is
move.
so good.
You know, and it's called when you play under your skill level, no matter how you're doing it, it's called playing on the lemon.
See, in
You
golf
know?
we call it sandbagging.
Sandbagging. Well, we call it sandbagging in pool too. Now, one pro player told me, and I'm sure this was not meant as a compliment, he goes, "You have the most natural lemon stroke I've ever seen."
Yeah, that was not a compliment.
So,
All right, well, I think that's it for this week. Maybe next week we'll do something a little more structured, but this was kind of fun. Just a couple videos.
I like shooting
the
shit about business. And, you
Yeah.
know, the whole thing is whatever events are coming to your town, you know, if you feel like that it's something you can take advantage of and get some more traffic and
Yeah.
and be a gracious host,
And be a little more proactive.
right,
Yeah.
and plan a little ahead, then do it
Yeah.
for sure.
All right. Well, check us out, turtlesmith.com, at turtlesmithok at all of our socials, and we'll catch you next week.
All right, everybody take care.
This is always annoying to ask, but if you're liking this content, please like and subscribe. It's the best way for us to get more followers and more people engaged in this great business content. You can also follow us on all socials at Turtlesmith OK and find us at turtlesmith.com.